almost 2 million confirmed cases of coronavirus. I am sure there's millions and millions more. We're talking about 2 million people who actually got tested. There's probably 20, 30, 40, 50 million people who are probably sick with it, many who don't even know. In some positive news, the number of new United States coronavirus deaths and confirmed cases are down slightly. The Monday recorded 1,509 deaths, down 48 from Sunday. The number of confirmed cases in the United States is 680,000. There's almost 25,000 deaths nationwide. In New York City alone, the death toll has passed 10,000 people died of coronavirus in the last couple of weeks. In New York City alone, more people have died in the state of New York than in any country in the world. We are here at the epicenter. The epicenter is Queens and Brooklyn and the Bronx. It kind of moves around. Now it's moving to Long Island. The city added 3,700 more deaths from people who were presumed to have died from coronavirus, but they never did a full, autopsy of the body. But they presumed the person because died of coronavirus because had all the symptoms, presumably of death by coronavirus. There's a big constitutional fight right now between Donald Trump and the governors on who gets to open up the country. So on Monday night, Trump continued to defend himself against criticism of his slow response to the pandemic. And as part of the criticism, he said not only that he did everything right, that when somebody is the president of the United States, you have total authority. He's going to decide when to open up the country. Donald Trump saying he did everything right is like the captain of the Titanic saying he did everything right. Of course we saw the iceberg. I saw the iceberg. Everything was great. We saw the iceberg from thousands of miles away. Yet he drove right into the iceberg. That's like what Donald Trump is saying. But I don't have Yo-Yo and Nesquik here to agree with me, but I agree with myself. So right now, there's a big fight between Trump and the governors. New York Governor Cuomo said on MSNBC's Morning Joe that what Trump did at his press conference last night was not bending the Constitution. It was breaking it. On NBC Today's show, Cuomo said, "We don't have a king, we have a president." That was a big decision. We ran away from having a king. George Washington was president, not King Washington. So the president does not have total authority. And quite frankly, there's a Supreme Court decision dating back from the 1980s that basically says the governors and local governments have the decision-making on all health-related issues as it relates to local issues. Now, President Trump, this is constitutional issues. President Trump can say, well, he has the right to make any decision that affects interstate commerce, and just about all of these decisions potentially could relate to interstate commerce. Back in the civil rights eras, the way that the United States federal government, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, the way they were able to enforce civil rights laws, federal civil rights laws, was based on the fact that many of the establishments that were not allowing blacks in or not treating blacks equally or separate was not equal, violated interstate commerce rules. So, we'll see what happens, but there's a big tug of war right now on who's in charge of opening up the United States. Now, right now, there's two groups of governors that are getting together. One group's the East Coast governors. They're the governors from Connecticut, Delaware, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island. They're getting together to have a regional opening of the economy. And on the West Coast, it's the governor of California, Oregon, and that's about 40% of the population of the United States. So, these two groups of governors are going to clash with Trump. We'll see what happens. Now, eventually, it's not going to be the Big Bang theory of opening up the economy that we all just race out of our apartments and homes and run back to work. I don't think it's going to work that way. I think the way it's going to work, based on what I'm reading, and I'm not a scientist, but I know the governors want to follow what the scientists are saying. President Trump wants to follow whatever his brain says at the moment. When he was asked the other day, how is he going to know to open up the economy? He goes, I know up here. Okay, but that's not knowing science. But what I believe is ultimately going to happen is they'll open up slowly, more like, slowly turning on a water faucet than opening up the dam and letting the water flow. So maybe, 20, 30, 40, 50% of offices, workers will be allowed back. Those, they're not going to allow 100% of workers back. Maybe restaurants will go back to allowing 50% of customers in. Maybe they'll make the chefs and the waiters and the maitre d' and the hostesses or the host wear masks when they greet you. Maybe there'll be a lot more things that are not reusable. Maybe menus will be paper, things that you can take and throw out that you're not using over and over again that you can transmit disease. We'll see how it all pans out. See what else is happening. This is good news. The Rutgers University said that there's a new saliva test that could dramatically alter the way the coronavirus is detected. They received federal emergency approval over the weekend. Officials expect to be rolling this out. Now, this saliva test you can do on your own. You don't have to go to a doctor. It's supposedly you can just spit in something and send it off somewhere and find out if you have coronavirus. That certainly will be a game changer. President Obama endorsed Joe Biden. We were waiting for Obama. I guess he was waiting to see who was going to be the Democratic nominee. He would not endorse anybody until we figured out who the nominee was. It looks like it's Joe Biden. And President Obama, he spoke in a 12-minute video. He said, if there's one thing we've learned as a country from moments of great crisis, it's that the spirit of looking out for one another can't be restricted to our homes or our workplaces or our neighborhoods or our houses of worship. It also has to be reflected in our national government. Supreme Court, for the first time ever, is going to hold arguments by teleconference. The reason they're doing this, the judges don't want to get sick. You know, many of them are old people. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's 87 years old. She has, all sorts of medical conditions. I think there's another judge, Stephen Breyer. He's, I think, 81 years old or 82. They're the oldest. Everybody else, is in their 60s and 70s. I don't know who's under 60. Maybe Kavanaugh could be under 60. I'm not sure. People from around the world, they've been cheering for the healthcare workers and everyone on the front lines. A Twitter campaign started by #Solidarity@8 has inspired people to go out to their balconies or open their windows to cheer for their healthcare workers fighting the coronavirus pandemic. In many countries around the world, citizens pause what they're doing at 8 o'clock every night and cheer from their windows and balconies. In New York City, it's at 7 o'clock every night. New Yorkers open their window, they step out onto their balconies or rooftops, and they make some noise for 2 minutes. Everyone screams, claps, bangs pots and pans. They make music, all to give thanks and gratitude to all the frontline workers who are risking their lives every day. And last night, after a full day of dark skies and unrelenting rain, right at 7 o'clock, the cheer took place. The sky turned blue. A full rainbow appeared over New York, which was a very nice thing. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.